Hello, Trekkies and Trekkers. Welcome to this amazing Star Trek podcast on Trek Tuesday. I'm your host, Maya Eileen, and I recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek TNG. Today we recap the episode Deja Q. But first, a note of the host of this podcast. I am looking for a Trek friend who wants and has the time to recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek with me. That also means I have decided to rename the podcast because Ghost Talking Trek was something from me and Amanda. The podcast will now only be available on YouTube or the Facebook group. If you are interested, please contact me. I would also appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. And now for the plot of the episode. The Enterprise arrives at planet Brielle 4 to prevent the looming disaster of the planet's asteroidal moon falling from its orbit and crashed into the highly populated planet. As the ship arrives, the planet is already experiencing damaging effects of the moon's gravitational field. As the crew is working, Q appears on the bridge naked. Q explains that he is being punished by the Continuum for spreading chaos throughout the universe and he has been stripped of all his powers, banished from the Q Continuum and transported to the Enterprise as a human, asking asylum. Captain Picard reluctantly helps Q, but instead of assigning him guest quarters, Picard treats Q like a criminal and throws him in the brig. As the moon continues to descend to the planet, Picard urges Q to use his powers and move the moon back into the original orbit. Q still insists that he is powerless except for his IQ of 2005. The captains assign Lieutenant Commander Data to watch Q and he is ordered to assist the Enterprise engineering team. Q suggests that they change the gravitational constants of the universe. Q begins experiencing more human conditions such as back spasm and hunger. Data takes Q to the 10 Forward Lounge. When Q inquires about what food best to address his constant suffering, Data suggested a chocolate sundae as he has observed Counselor Diana Troy turning to chocolate when she is depressed. After ordering 10 sundaes, his hunger is quickly displaced. Upon encouraging Guinan, who takes advantage of Q's mortal form to stab him with a fork. Shortly thereafter, Q is set upon by a cloud of gaseous entitles called the Calamarian, who, having previously been tormented by Q, are attempting to revenge. After raising the shields to prevent the Calamarian from attacking Q, Picard determines that Q took refuge on the Enterprise to protect himself from alien species that hold a grudge against him. Q's idea of changing the gravitational content of the universe impossible with human technology sparks an idea of Chief Engineer Geordi LaForge. To modify the gravitational contents is a small volume of space, which he tests. However, the text lowers the Enterprise shields, allowing the Calamarian to attack Q again. Data attempts to save Q, but their assault is electrified in his doing so, nearly frying his positronic brain. Realizing that his presence on the Enterprise doing more harm than expected, Q leaves the ship in a shuttlecraft. As the Calamarian closes onto the shuttle, a second Q being appears on the shuttle and informs Q that due to his selfless act to protect the Enterprise, the Continuum is willing to give him a second chance and restore his powers. Q accepts and shrinks the Calamarian entitles and entities and teleports them into the palm of his hand, gloating over the restoration of his powers. The other Q reminds him that he should reflect upon the lesson he learned, and he grudgingly turned the tiny aliens loose. Q, dressed as a mariachi, returns to the Enterprise, celebrating nudged by Picard's to leave. He departs, bestowing a parting gift on Data for showing Q how to be more human. After Q disappears, Data begins to laugh uncontrollably for a moment, to the Enterprise of the rest of the Enterprise, to surprise of the rest of the Enterprise crew. Upon learning that the Braille moon has returned to a safe orbit, Picard surmises that Q is responsible and says that perhaps Q had a residue of humanity after all. But a cigar appears in Picard's hand, with Q's voice telling him, "Don't bet on it." So, I am going to rewatch this episode. I hope you do the same. And then I will be back to recap it. Stay tuned. Don't go away. So, this episode is one of the, I think, a lot of favorites of people and Trek fans. Because, of course, it is about Q again. And where Q goes, it's mayhem time. But I must say, I like this page because Q was human. And he's been punished. And the nice thing of it is, what we Dutch always say, how you translate this? It's in a way like karma's bitch. And I think Q deserved how he has been treating the whole galaxy. Yeah, he had it coming. And this is not the first time he will be kicked out of the Q Continuum. So the first scene is that the Enterprise is at this planet Graal, and they are finding out what's going on there. So it's about this moon that is out of orbit, and it causes major damages on the planet. And the citizens are not very happy with it particular. And but the species does remind me of something, and I have no idea where it's coming from, but okay. And of course we have Geordie LaFortresse's technobabble, what I love. I think there are a few of the engineering chiefs that have really good technobabbles. And I'm watching Andromeda at the moment, also created by Gene Roddenberry, for one of my Maya Eileen Talks podcast. So that will be the first one in the next year, so that's gonna be fun. But I see the Harper, who is the engineer in a way. He also got those technobabbles. That is very interesting how they do that. And but okay, it's I think they did that with Scotty already, but I think Geordie LaForce has more to it than Scotty. So they try to move the moon or rock with the tractor beam, and it is a failure. And other things are happening on the ship, and then of course Q is on the bridge, naked. So right away, Riker thinks Q is behind this all. And yeah, he said, I'm not behind this because I don't have powers. And that outfit he is wearing, it reminds me a bit of course, it's civilian. But yeah, in one way, it's funny how things are going now. Because he doesn't have the cube powers anymore. But the only thing he has is his high IQ to help. So I think in this episode we see that Q has been taught to be more considerate and what it is to be human. So Riker and Picard don't believe that Q is human now, and he has to demonstrate it. And they think this is a cruel joke of him again. But Q has really been banished from the Q Continuum. So Q has a conversation now with the bridge crew. Data scanned him and said, well, he's fully human now. And but they asked Q, why are you human? And then he said, well, the closest friend I have to a friend that I have is Jean-Luc. And I didn't know where to go, and I'm asking for asylum. So there's a funny scene on the bridge now. And Picard is asking to Q, what do you want? So, compassion, etc. And then he says also, well, I want to have an asylum here on the ship. But I like to be treated human. So, what can I do to convince you guys that I'm human, etc.? And which Worf answered, die. And you could see Riker smirking at that comment. What was funny? And Picard was saying, okay, you want to be treated human? Okay, Mr. Worf, throw him in the brig. And I forgot how comical this episode is. Worf take him to the turbo lift, and meanwhile they are going to the bridge. Q is sulking about being human, and he is thinking of all the bad things of humans. And he was wishing that he didn't choose for being human. But okay, that's his condition now. Now he has to work with it. What I think it was amusing to Picard that he could throw Q in the brig. And I think we never seen that because Q is always Q. And Q, of course, has been since the very first beginning in the first episode of TNG. And yeah, he's just always being the insulting part and being Picard's nemesis. And while they're walking to the brig, what was really, I was thinking, why would Q follow Worf like a little lamb that's lost and accept his fate? Q never does that. And then he tried to get on the good side with Worf and say, well, I have to set Klingon, I'm more a Klingon, and we are brothers. And well, Worf wasn't amused by that. And then he put him in the brig and they talked a little. And then Worf activated the force field. And then we see the old Q, the baby Q, that is whining about everything. So after a while, Picard is going to the brig and have this conversation with Q. And because also there are weird things going on. And the moon is gonna be a problem. So they only have 25 hours to take care of a solution, because then the moon will fall down to the planet and then everything will be dead. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And for the first time, we see a very frightened Q, because he experienced sleep, he needs to eat, he needs to shower, etc., etc. Now, those are things he doesn't know. And what for us is normal, for him it's like a major change and a major experience. He never experienced that. So in one way it's kind of funny, and in another way it's just like, yeah, you get your own, his own karma that is getting him back. So, yeah, I think it's just funny for the crew of the Enterprise as well. And there was this moment when Q was in engineering and he got back pain, and Dr. Crusher massaged him a bit to loosen up his back. And that was the moment I always say, you gotta love it, because for all the time Q has been like that to them, now they give him a little bit of piece of his own medicine. And yeah, I get they could give him, like, well, Dr. Crusher could give him some pain back, and I think for everyone must be very enjoyable. Picard is assigning data to Q for the remaining of his stay on the Enterprise, because they can use the knowledge that Q has. And then Q has the damn nerve to ask for a uniform, which Picard just totally ignored, of course. I would do the same, because Q is Q. He didn't have the education, and he's not going through the whole academy thing to have to wear a uniform. And of course, he doesn't have the nobility for, to actually wear one, because you have to earn it, and Q didn't. And of course, you see in every time we meet Q, 9 of the 10 times he will wear a uniform that is in higher rank than Picard. So, him not wearing a uniform now and allow to wear a uniform, that's satisfying me a bit. Q and Data walking to the engineering, and but the fun part is in this episode you see that Data is teaching Q how to be human and how to cope with it. And they have discussions about humans, and in one way it's very funny because they both aren't human. And to have those conversations and teaching from each other is in one way a nice message also from June Roddenberry. I don't know if June Roddenberry still was in season 3. I have to look that up. Hold on. Okay, I just googled it, and Gene Roddenberry passed away in season 5 of TNG. So he still had some influence on writing on and messages on Star Trek. So I will not be surprised if he told the writers this has to be from a not human perspective. When they are in the engineering, Q gives them a solution how to solve this. But Geordi became very irritated because it was a solution that only a Q being could do. And yeah, but he also experienced his first time back pain. What was a bit silly, because he was still whining like a baby. But yeah, it's just like how, and I can imagine a young child with a very high IQ, it must be difficult for them to have this much knowledge and they can gain. And being that young, it's just, I think it's a bit awful to have that in a way. But yeah, it's the same for Q. It's a new experience for him, and it's like everything is getting now on his nerve, and he doesn't know how to handle it. That's why he's whiny. And oh yeah, it's just like, once again, karma's a bitch. So Dr. Crusher scans Q, and she was very flabbergasted because she said, if I wouldn't see it for myself because of the scan, then she wouldn't believe it that Q was human. So she said, well, you just have classic back pain. I started massaging him a bit, and she massaged him that in a way that you could see he was in a lot of pain. If you saw Beverly's face as well, she was super enjoying it to see Q in pain. And in the next scene, we see that Q experienced hunger. So Data is taking him to 10 forward to try his first meal. And also that is very funny. And an experience for him, of course. But to do this experience that Q is having with somebody like an android must be weird in a way, because he can't feel and he doesn't consume meals. What is also coming to mind right now is How would Q deal with alcohol when he is drunk? That would be so funny. It's just a thought that saying, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of fun with a drunken Q. So once again, Data and Q have this conversation, and Data explain the food you eat is also to do with the mood you are in. So Q said, well, I'm in a poor mood, which in Data reacts on, well, if Counselor Troy is unhappy, she is ordering chocolate ice cream. And of course, Q being Q is ordering 10 chocolate sundaes, which is a lot and weird. And the reaction of Data is like, whoa, you're gonna be sick, But okay, it's Q and you have to try something, so let's get on with it. Okay, now come a very, 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 very funny part. Garden comes in and she has the big grin on her face with, if it is really true that Q is human, let's take a fun with him. And she stick him with a knife in his hand. That is one thing she did. This is, by the way, one of the rare times that Gaiman is wearing another color than purple. And in one way it's a bit weird for me. And the fork she is getting is also a bit weird. But okay, she stabs Q with it just to see if he is really, really human. What makes it, again, a funny episode for us guys too. Because Q is Q. And it is nice to have Q have a bit of a payback. And of course, the last time we see Q is in Star Trek Picard. In the finale episode. When he appears to Jack, Picard's son. And Jack thought that the whole Q thing was finished. But Q said, well, the human trial never will be finished. I'm finished with your dad, but you are his follow-up. So Q has always surprises in a way, not in a good way, but yeah, it's nice to see that we can give him a bit of a payback now. So we're back on the bridge, and Picard and the crew just experience or seeing a electric, well, some kind of an electric cloud that could be a life form, and they are trying to make contact with it. Then this electric cloud comes into the 10 forward and attack Q. And it is the Calamarian species that is attacking Q because Q have wrongfully do things to them that, if it was me, I can understand to say, okay, you did this to us, so we gonna have our revenge. And that's what's happening now. Q has been attacked because of his wrongdoing in the whole universe. So the ape is coming off the sleeve now because Picard is talking to Q with, okay, now I know why you did it, why you are here. You think we can protect you, and because we have empathy and sympathy and forgiveness, and we just want to be good, you think we will protect you. And then he also daring to say, well, if you let me, I could be a valuable member of the team. Which Picard snores and said, yeah, right. We're going to the first starbase nearby, and we will drop you off there. I'm not going to take a part of it. So meanwhile, the planet is getting more and more frustrated, and the moon is causing a lot of problems. So Picard is desperate to find a solution. And Geordi, thanks to Q, has the knowledge now how he can change the moon's orbit and probably get back into orbit. So Picard is telling the people on the planet that, and they will have another try. Data and Q are joining Geordi in the engineering. And as always, Q liked to take the lead, but Geordi said, you're just human now, so you're not superior to us. Maybe you have the brains for it, but my people are going to execute it, so I am in charge. What make me laugh again and have the confidence to say, yeah, Q, bye-bye. And it's very funny because for the first time, Q is commanded to take orders. And it is not something that Q is used to. So he is very taken aback when Geordi said, shut up, Q, go to your post, do your freaking job. Geordi is giving it another try and does his best to change the moon's orbit. And Q is not really doing his job. And he somehow looks like he's bored. And that resulted a smash, a hit of Geordi to Q. So they getting the moon to move with the tractor beam, and the numbers are okay, but then the Camaradian are attacking again. Once again, they are attacking Q, and Data try to help him but it doesn't help, and Geordi need to do something with the Tetrian shield or field, and that helps. And Data as well as Q are not responding. Now we are in sickbay, and Geordi and Dr. Crusher are working on Data. Q is himself again. There are all over security cards, of course, because it's Q we're talking about. And once again, Q is sulking. But I noticed, guys, I don't know if you see, but I think they shortened Beverly Crusher's hair in this episode. I don't know if this is a wig, but who knows. And the nice thing is, And that's what I always admired about Dr. Crusher. She is very engaged with human beings and other species for the health. But she has this electronic knowledge of data. She has this knowledge of data that I'm thinking, okay, isn't this more not for Jodie LaForge instead of her? And she combines three worlds in a way. She has the traditional healing of her, I believe it is her grandmother. So she could work with herbs, etc. to heal. Then you have, of course, the regular healing of the future nowadays. And then you have, of course, she has that knowledge of androids, synths. What makes me wondering now, what would she know? And that I haven't said it before. Because if you think back of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Picard is a synth. How does his old crew react on that? What does the old crew know? And does Beverly has more involvement now with Picard again because he's a synth? The next scene is that we are in Picard's ready room, and Q has been screwed out by Picard of his selfishness. And then, Q needs to take a step down. And I think the experience that he was almost dead and Data helped him, give him another perspective in what he normally would experience and see. This is also some kind of a form of friendship. And I think Q is getting more sense now in what he's doing. Of course, he's still being Q. And he will always be that. Then you see Q talking with Data because he's visited Data in sickbay. And Q, with many words he's saying it, but not in the direct form of it. He tells Data that he is more human than he ever would be. And that he never thought Data would do that. And then, of course, Q being Q will have something on mind, and he goes to the shuttle bay. Q takes a shuttle, and right away that energy cloud is going towards the shuttle. Picard is trying to talk Q out of it. But Q said, no, don't do it. And maybe this will help, and my dad will be as dignity as well. And I have learned a lot of humans. And not in a way thank you, but still in Q's way. Once again, there are things happening on the Enterprise. They can't expand the field to Q shuttle. They want to try to trap the beam, but that's not working. All systems are frozen. And then we are back in Q shuttle, and another Q from the Q continuum is there. So now comes the big shocker. That one Q was the one who was the person, or human being, alien, who get Q kicked off out of the Q Continuum. He said, I was so sick and tired of you causing this mayhem in the galaxy, especially with the humans. Although I must say the humans are very interesting. And those selfless acts of yours that you are taking a shuttle now to go far away from the Calamarian so they can kill you and not the Enterprise. That is selfless. And therefore you can come back to the Q Continuum. You get another chance. And of course, and Q, as soon as Q has his powers back, he is causing mayhem already. First of all, he's putting himself in a uniform, a Starfleet uniform. Then he wants to destroy or do something to the Comedian. And then he's going back to the Enterprise. So the Enterprise scanned the surroundings, and they find out that the energy cloud, the Comedian, are away and disappeared. And so does the Enterprise shuttle. And they think this is the end of Q. So then Q appears with a mariachi band and starts playing and for his victory. To a big annoyance to the Enterprise crew, so very funny at all, is that he put cigars in Riker's and Picard's mouth, and they were not amused. So Q is telling them that he has his powers back and that he's back in the Continuum. So Picard is telling Q, stop the crap. And then of course we see Q again in the captain's uniform. And for once in Q's life, we see him thanking Picard for all of this. And he's going to pay Data a debt that he wants to repay. And we never seen that of Q. Q wants to give Data an ultimate goodbye present. And during the episode they were talking about humans and their flaws, but also their strength, and Data didn't like it that he could fully laugh or fully cry or experience those intense human emotions. So when Q went, Data for a moment was bursting into laugh and experienced true laughter as a human. And that is what Q gave him. The last message we get from the planet is that the moon is back to his normal orbit. So I think the other Q has restored it as well. So all good, everything is good. And even the crew, the bridge crew, was very surprised that Data was laughing like that, because they don't know that. But Data was telling them, well, it's a nice experience to really feel the laughter. So in that way, we see that Q did learn something in a way, and be, I don't want to say particularly less selfish, but he did once again a selfless act for Data. So guys, this was the last episode for this year, and I, my Eileen, wish you everyone a happy new year. And of course, I'd love to see you back in the next year. Thank you guys for listening, and join me in the new year for new episode recaps. In the next episode, we'll recap the episode A Matter of Perspective. I also have 2 other podcasts, namely Maya Eileen Talks, which is some kind of a geek podcast wherein I talk a lot about Star Trek, and the Dutch Ready Room podcast, which is in my native language, Dutch, and for all Dutch Trekkies, of course. You can find both podcasts on YouTube and Facebook, and the My Eileen Talks podcast is also to find on Spotify, Anchors, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music. I will see you in the next year. Live long and prosper.